We are live for a very special Wine and Comics pairing show. Let me quickly sneak over to Instagram and make sure that we go live there as well. 1 second. Boom. We are live on the Insta as well. And so today, everybody, and welcome. If you're joining us in the comments, please sound off. Let us know who's watching. But today is going to be a very special episode. We have Evan Carothers, not only a comic creator that you are probably very well acquainted with from Woven Press, and we had him on recently with his Tox graphic novel collection. But today is something that it was made for our show, and I think this is going to be Evan's sweet spot as well. He has been a mixologist by trade in the past, maybe still isn't, but currently that's actually something we're going to get into. And he has created 2 comics based on mixed cocktails. We are going to be talking about Volume 2 and the Manhattan and Paloma. We're going to get right into that right after we play our opening. Here we go, everybody. All right. So yes, this is the Wine and Comics pairing show, but there will be no wine tonight. This is going to be all about the mixed cocktails. We have 2. So Evan has created the series called Mixology Noir. Each volume collects 2 stories, each inspired by a mixed cocktail. We're going to be talking about Volume 2 today, which has Paloma and Manhattan. And we're going to be talking about both those stories and mixing those beverages. We're all going to be trying them tonight. I have not. So, Evan, I have not had a mixed drink in, I think it might be years now. I don't think I've actually journeyed beyond. Wow. I've had shots and I've had wine and I've had beer, but I have not actually done a cocktail. I mean, I cannot think of the last time, an actual time. So I think that means it's been like probably pre-pandemic since I've really been going out there and getting mixed cocktails. So I'm excited about tonight. I'm excited to explore this, but we're gonna start drinking much quicker than we normally do, guys. Normally, we don't really get to the wine on the Wine and Comics pairing show until the bitter end. We're going to dive right into mixing these cocktails, but I want to ask you one question right before we start mixing the cocktails, Evan, and that is, give us just the backstory of Mixology Noir, what made you want to do this series, why in this particular volume you did Paloma and Manhattan, and your background as a mixologist, please.
Yeah. So when I started out the series, I knew I wanted to do the 4 stories based on the 4 drinks. And it just so happened that the first one was Vesper and Sazerac. So that meant I had 2 left. And the 2 that are left go great in story form. Unfortunately, they're not the best pairing for drinking, but here we are.
Going side by side, right?
I see that.
We're going to find out. So, okay. So, and what we're going to do, I think, the way I want this episode to go is we're going to mix each beverage. We'll do one at a time. We'll mix each cocktail, then talk about the story. And talk about the drinks themselves and what we think of them, so we can really kind of dive into like how these 2 things paired together. And then Evan can talk to me a little more in detail to like why this story with this drink and things of that nature. Real quickly in the comments, we do have Brian Mantle here, or Jack's Axe. Hi, Evan. Welcome, Brian. And hello, Dave Baxter. Thank you. And don't forget Dallas. He's right over there. You haven't met him in the Discord, though, so I understand. You don't know him personally, but that is Dallas. One day he might join us in the Discord. So
all right, calm down.
You're pressuring him. Yeah, I know. Calm down. Exactly. Haven't drank in so long. Blake's Buzz joining us, living vicariously through this. I know, man. You're doing more than just a dry January. I thought it was just a dry January, but you're just going as long as you can at this point. Into the more into the devil's herb, I think, at this point. And this
comics is too stressful not to drink. I don't know.
Yeah. Or have some kind of ice that like calms you down, like gives you a little something to ride that wave. Mixology Noir book 1 was fantastic. I agree with that. Back to the herb, and I shall give Dallas a hello. Nice to meet you. There you go. All right, that catches us up. Yeah. All right. So Evan, which one should we do first?
I think we should do the Paloma first. It's a little sweeter, a little more fruit and stuff in there, and then it'll finish nice with the Manhattan afterwards. The Paloma's the more complicated one too, so
yes,
might as well get that out of the way and keep it easy after we have our first one.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Now, I'm gonna let Evan. Evan's gonna show us how to actually make a Paloma, like a real true blue Paloma. I cheated a little bit on the Paloma. I have the real ingredients for the Manhattan, but I brought the Paloma. I went to 2 grocery stores and I could not find. I could find neither grapefruit juice or grapefruits at either grocery store in LA right now. And I was like, WTF? And that was a sign. So I went to my local liquor store, and I have 2 canned tequila Palomas that I'm going to taste side by side and let you know if either is worth your while.
Oh, wow.
But this is exactly the kind of Paloma that the characters in the comic denigrate and shit talk and are like, yeah, not that grapefruit soda shit. And
Don't drink those ones. Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, you could have just the traditional substitute would be like Fresca instead of grapefruit, right?
Oh, Fresca.
Like that, but, yeah.
Well, these are so I do have a Cazadores, which has their own tequila blanco in there. And then a grapefruit flavored with natural flavors, quote unquote. So, no artificial, but at the same time, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
None of them say like just real juice or anything like that. So I'm not sure where the flavors
it's gonna be hard to find
coming from. And then I have Cutwater Tequila Paloma, which is the Cutwater Tequila Blanco with, again, naturally flavored grapefruit soda. So we're going to find out how those are.
Walk us through it, Evan. What do we got, buddy?
Yeah. Well, I will start by saying you don't have to like drinking to enjoy these stories, but they're obviously based on cocktails. And so each one of them starts out with a nice illustration page and the recipe. So this is I'm going to be basically reading off of this one, which is right from the book. And this is a little bit different version of it than the original one, which I mentioned, which actually has relevance to the story, but it's still very, very good. So Paloma, we're going to start with this one's more fun. You mix it right in the glass. I've got a highball here. Usually if you like salt, like you traditionally do on like a margarita, salt the rim. I'm not a salt guy, so I'm skipping that.
Yeah, me either.
I've actually seen someone do with the grapefruit salt, which is apparently
yeah. Ooh. Or the tahini.
Yeah, I didn't even
like
think about that. Yeah.
So we're going to do fresh juices in this one. This is grapefruit juice that I squeezed beforehand. So I'm going to go ahead and just do 2 ounces of the grapefruit in here.
Good Lord.
I got my measure here. Dave's going to just pretend he's pouring 2 ounces into his little cup of his pre-mixed one.
Yep. I mean, you can see it's even clear. It's like it's so not getting me in the right mood because it's not even pink, this one.
We're going to move on to half a ounce of fresh lime juice, which I pretty squeezed as well. And if you like a little more tartness, you can go more than half. I tend to do a little more than half an ounce.
Yeah.
And then,
this is nice.
Yeah, the sweetener, you can do either sugar or simple syrup or agave nectar.
Yeah, agave. I've got some agave syrup in that.
Calls for half ounce.
Okay.
Sorry, I feel like my internet might be cutting out a little bit. Are you guys hearing me okay?
Nope.
Yeah, you're good.
Nope. Yeah. No stutter. No nothing.
Okay, cool. All right.
You are
agave nectar going in.
There you go. And yes, Blake, thank you. When you can't make 1 drink, make 2. This is math I support.
All right. So far we just got agave, grapefruit, lime juice in here. Going in here. And part of what this story, the Paloma story is takes place at a little dinky bar on the border of Mexico, and the owner has a grapefruit tree he's very proud of in the backyard of the bar that he uses to make all his fresh Palomas, which has some tie-ins to the story. So, all right, I got that, and I'm going to just go ahead and add some ice in here.
This is ice directly from an iceberg on the top of Mount.
Let's see. Let me try and move.
Directly from my local gas station.
Best ice in the world.
All right, so you got the ice. I think it's fun, like researching the cocktails in advance of the stories. I kind of know about the origins of a lot of these and stuff, but I like using cocktails that are storied, as part of it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Then we're gonna go with the tequila. I got my go-to here, Casamigos. Go-to Blanco that I use. It's not super expensive. It's not super cheap, but it's just expensive enough that it's filtered a little better than some of the cheap shit, so it helps avoid the hangovers.
Is that the Rocks brand? Is that the Rocks brand, or is that what's the guy?
No, this is George Clooney's.
Yeah. What does that go around like 50, 60 a bottle kind of a thing, or?
This varies widely regionally. I've been on vacation trying to find it. And it was like 50, 60, but locally here it's like 35 for me.
Oh, nice. So 50, 60 in LA, probably.
Yeah, probably. Well, with inflation. And then this is traditionally made with grapefruit soda. I mentioned Fresca is one of the ones. There's a couple other ones like Mexican sodas that people use instead. So you substitute the grapefruit and lime and this club soda with just grapefruit soda. But I prefer doing it this way.
Okay.
Because you get the fresh grapefruit juice. So I'm just topping it off with club soda.
Yep.
And that's it. That's the Paloma.
Beauty.
Garnish with a grapefruit wedge
gorgeous.
if you're feeling fancy. Maybe a little mint sprig if you want to add just a little bit of fun sweetness to it and a little garnish. And cheers to comics.
Yeah, it is.
Cheers,
it's one
guys.
of those drinks. I've been to a number of functions that have been either Mexican themed or Central American themed even, but that have had the pomelo or paloma in a punch bowl, basically, or a big jar of it, where you get to just pour your own as you go, and it is so refreshing. It's a perfect summer cocktail, man. Yeah.
I will say
all
even
Americans,
this. Go ahead, Evan. Sorry.
I was going to say a lot of Americans think like the traditional most common drink in like Mexico and Central America is a margarita, but I've been often corrected that it's the Paloma because it's cheaper. The ingredients are accessible.
Yeah.
Right? Anybody can get Fresco and tequila.
Yeah.
Right.
And
it's
lime. Everyone's got a lime tree in their backyard.
Yeah. Right. And it's a simple mix and stir. It's not that whole like blended, type of thing that you have to do with the margarita. So, and this is even this. I'm gonna, just so people can see, I'm gonna taste the other one in just a minute, but I recommend this one. I'm sure it is not as good, but this Cutwater Tequila Paloma, I gotta say, this is refreshing and really tasty. I'm excited about that one. I'm gonna pour the other one now and see if it holds up.
I've been seeing that Cutwater brand pop up a lot more locally. I think they got pretty good distribution in.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
they're in a big push out right now. They're everywhere. Yeah.
Yep. And we do have Jack Sachs Bryan is saying, but only the fanciest gas station locally, Casamigos. And 30 to 40 here in Kentucky City. If I remember, Kansas City. Sorry, Kentucky City. I was like, oh, where does he live? What's in the heartland? I don't know. I never go there.
Evan, I remember once they had some, what is it called? Fermented grapefruit or candied grapefruit, actually. Candied grapefruit that they sort of macerated in the bottom of the glass and kind of gave it a syrupy kind of sweetness, bottom note.
Yeah. I've seen those at like fancier cocktail bars. They'll have the dehydrated candied grapefruits they'll garnish it with and stuff.
Yeah. How do you play around with your recipe?
That's about it.
That's the
I just use fresh. My rule for any cocktail is it's always better and good just with fresh juice. That's it. You don't need to get fancy. Just use fresh juice and it's better.
Yeah. I hate that bottled lime juice. That stuff just feels paint stripper. Yeah.
I'll use it to cook with, but I think if you're making something to drink straight or whatnot, it's like or like salad dressing or something like fresher is better. I will say, so I just poured the second one, and this is much more this taste. This is the Cazadores. I'll blow up my screen here so people can see it a little bit. This one, it was only $1 cheaper for the can than the other one. It's not as good. I gotta say, it's not bad, but this one tastes like Fresca. Like this tastes like I'm literally drinking spiked Fresca. And the Cutwater actually is kind of fooling my tongue and brain into being like, this is a better mixed cocktail. Like I didn't just pour it right out of a can. Like that one's got something to it. Whereas this one is exactly what you'd expect.
Yeah. So I guess imagine you're walking through the desert in the border of Mexico at night and you stumble across a little bar filled with locals drinking fresh grapefruit juice palomas. That's kind of the start of the story that turns into a much different horror story.
Oh, yes, it does. Yes, it does. I will say first, Dave just made Taylor Swift cry. I know. I'm sorry, Taylor Swift. I don't know where you come from. I don't know your city at all. So what is the story? Before we talk about the story, what is the story behind the Paloma? You said you dived into like the research and whatnot. So what is the story of the Paloma?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the exact specifics. It was invented by a Mexican bartender at a bar in some small town in Mexico, and it just kind of gained fame from there. And as I mentioned earlier, like it was popularized because of easy access to the ingredients. And kind of, I believe it was invented right around the time that grapefruit soda was invented, which kind of swept the nation.
That makes sense
in terms of popularity. Yeah,
right.
It doesn't have like some super storied history like the Sazerac and the riverboats and jazz and all that stuff. It's just
right.
a very popular drink that's accessible but can be elevated. And I always think it's interesting because if people forget about Palomas, everyone knows what a margarita is. But a Paloma, I think, can be even better.
Yeah. I'd never heard of it until that I know of. Like my brain had no memory of ever having heard of this drink. So if anyone ever mentioned it, I didn't know what it was and just immediately forgot about it and never tried it. So this is my first sort of Paloma that I've ever tried. And I absolutely will go find a fucking grapefruit and actually do it for real one of these days very soon.
I mean, the real one is Fresca, so you can even do that.
Right.
Oh, that's true. I
Fresca
suppose.
or Jarritos, any
Squirt,
of the sort of Squirt. A buddy of mine who's from Mexico, when I mentioned this to him, he said it is extraordinarily rare to find the Paloma on a menu in Mexico. Because it's almost the equivalent of like house wine.
Yeah, like a gin and tonic or something.
Yeah, it's like they've got their own little sort of, like everybody can make one for you. So yeah, it is. It's kind of the equivalent of like a house wine, I suppose, in many ways. Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. And we've got Brian saying Jarritos are great. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's a soda.
It's a soda.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a Mexican specific soda. That's grapefruit.
Yeah. That they use sometimes in the Paloma.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's the brand. Yeah. Okay. That's their brand. That's their one of the main brands for that. I thought Squirt was just pee. Nope.
It could be a lot of things in different contexts, Blake.
Yes, exactly.
Blake, if you think that's the only type of squirting, I feel sorry for you, bud.
I get the feeling Blake's just starting.
Blake, you gotta go socialize off the internet, buddy. You gotta learn what squirting is. That's all I gotta. And the fact that someone actually branded a soda that and got away with it is one of the great.
The soda came long before the colloquialism, the sexual euphemism. So.
Oh Lord. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Paloma story because that one was. To me, and I'm don't know if you'll agree with this, but like from a genre, there were two movies that it reminded me of. So as you mentioned, this is this bar on the outskirts of near the border of Mexico, and there is a grapefruit tree. This almost supernatural grapefruit tree that grows there, even though it's not that we know of. That's not the part that gets weird. But there is a tree, and so this bar is known for its palomas. It makes amazing palomas, and then these two kids that are on the run, seemingly show up, and everything goes to hell. And it reminds me, it's kind of a setup that reminded me of either like Evan, if you've ever seen the Tales from the Crypt movie Demon Knight, or no, you haven't seen that one. Or Feast is another horror movie that has a similar. Now those are both like. The story is not the same, but the setup is very similar. It's like a bar, and everyone shows up at the bar, and then horror shit starts happening, and it's like confined in this bar area, kind of a thing. And it's that kind of fun for those of you who know Feast, for those of you who know Demon Knight. And I know I name dropped Demon Knight to Travis Gibb when he was on the show not too long ago. And he was like, "Oh, we're best friends now. That's the greatest movie ever." And I'm like, "Okay, great. Yes, it is. It is an amazing. Speaking of
horror that takes place in a bar the entire time, in my old pal George Clooney, there's another movie there. With some vampires and Selma Hayek.
Actually,
similar
energy.
Yep.
Similar energy. Yeah.
Tarantino and Selma Hayek
and full circle Clooney night.
And a proper Robert Rodriguez is Mexican, isn't he? I believe so. That's a proper Mexican director too.
I think he's part.
Yeah, there you go. Boom, boom, all around. So, what was you had the Paloma drink? And did you have the idea of this sort of horror noir story taking place in a bar, and then you had to decide what drink this bar was going to be known for?
That's
or
the
like,
origin
how did that
story
story?
here.
Yeah. How'd that come to be in your head?
I mean, so there's a lot of different. I mean, I don't have some magical story about it. My wife works in social work, so she's always got stories, you know. And I've always been interested in like children that are, you know, in states of needing assistance and on the run and different stuff like that. And then I guess my messed up brain decided to marry that with monsters and cocktails and, you know, flipping or, you know, taking something where it's like this kindly bartender who's trying to do nothing but help, who you think might be the bad guy. He maybe is, maybe isn't. You know, it's hard to kind of understand what's going on there till everything reveals itself. And there's the element of these children on the run and pursuit that they have. And there's no grand design other than that. I just kind of thought about it and thought it was going to be interesting and the twists would be compelling. And that was about it.
100%. And I will say real quickly, and Brian, Billy Zane is a legend. That's the Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight. Yeah, Billy Zane. That is, if anyone's a fan of Billy Zane or has only ever really seen him in like Titanic as the bad guy there, or if you've only seen him as like
he's a great villain.
The Phantom in The Phantom, where he was the hero for once. He's the villain in Demon Knight, and it is I think it's everyone's favorite performance of his. Like it does not get better than that movie. So I definitely recommend that. And I will say, Evan, the twists in this one, because you do take, I was hesitant, I wanted to make sure if I compared it to Demon Knight and compared it to Feast, that it's not a tit for tat comparison, because you take that kind of setup where it's like, okay, but we know what's happening in that setup. And that's not exactly what's happening here. And I really appreciated that. I loved that, especially the characters that you thought were going to be almost like the X-Files type investigator characters that were going to be the heroes of the piece were very much not. And then the people who were helpless were very much not, seemingly helpless were very much not. And then a whole nother, and there was, the story does a really good job of breadcrumbing its way to the end, and like you drop all the information we needed to know where the story was going, but it's all not the way we're used to these stories going, that it's still, by the time you get to the end, you're like, oh damn, I didn't see that coming, and that's dark. And that was so that's
noir.
And that's
There's no happy endings.
Yeah, exactly.
That's noir. And that's also the Paloma, because you can drink, honestly, you can honestly drink like 3 of these and not feel it. And then on that 4th one, you're like, oh, I'm going out. I'm done. It's dark.
Something happened. Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Another sip of this cup water here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to end on the Fresco one. I much prefer this. Yeah.
Oh, don't worry.
There's
you're gonna have
something
a
about
Manhattan still. You'll feel good.
I know.
That's gonna burn.
I know. The Cutwater one really does. It tastes like tequila and grapefruit juice, whereas the other one tastes like Fresca. And honestly, I can't even really. This one, the Cutwater, you can actually taste the tequila a little bit, whereas the other one, I'm sure the alcohol is there. I'm sure I would feel it if I just kept drinking it, but it's like I'm not tasting it. I'm not feeling it. It's also
we got to get Evan to. We got to get Evan to overnight you one of his, so he can. Compare.
Yeah, I will. Juice probably goes bad by the time he gets there.
Yeah, exactly. No, I've just got to go find a proper. I don't know what was going on. I went to a Whole Foods and a Sprouts, and neither of them had grapefruits. And I was like, no, guys, come on! I had one evening to go out and do this shopping.
Yeah.
I needed it to be on this run. Maybe if I'd gone to Ralph's or something, I could have gotten some unripened, not out of season grapefruits. I don't know.
Real quick, Evan, in terms of the timeline, when did you start Paloma? What was that process time-wise?
Because this was part of, you had all 4 stories in your brain from the get-go for this mixology stuff, right?
I actually wrote all 4 of them before any art was done. So it was just a matter of me kind of picking how I wanted to put it together and have it come out. This story's been finished, art and everything, for over a year before I even brought it to Kickstarter.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Did you tinker a lot?
Take time to publish and do all the fun marketing and all that crap.
Of course. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I will say from a creative standpoint, so that was the story where I didn't script it line by line by line. I did some dialogue and then worked with the artist a little bit to like. I felt that I had to do it as justice and get a Mexican artist to do the art to bring the character in the world to life, and he had some suggestions and worked with me to kind of craft the pieces of the story that I didn't traditionally. I would do like as you're familiar with, your dialogue, your panel 1 dialogue, panel 2 dialogue, edit that, get everything specific with art. The artist has some room to play, but I gave him a little more room in this one, and even more room in Manhattan, which you can talk about. But yeah, it's fun. I've been enjoying doing that, experimenting with different ways to create scripts and work with artists on every piece.
Yeah. I tell you, some of the images in this thing are fucking fantastic. I love the image of the old guy with the shaker. I may have to put that on a T-shirt. That's kind of fantastic.
Yeah, the bartender. Yeah, he's endearing, isn't he? Till the bitter end.
He is.
You want him to make a drink for you, for sure.
I do agree, though, that he is a bit of a he seems like a good guy, but then you mentioned you're like, is he? Who knows? Like we don't really go down that route.
That story could have went a lot of different ways. Yeah,
I think that's also a testament to your placement, also, Evan, because just placing it in this outskirts bumfuck town, in the middle of nowhere,
sketchy,
in Mexico,
sketchy bar. Kids on
every
the run
character
passing through.
Yep. And we really only learn the surface level elements of all these characters. Like we don't get a deep which is for the best. I mean, I won't say anymore. I won't give away where it all goes, but we'll just say that that isn't the point of the story and what happens.
Right.
And we'll leave it there. But yeah, Paloma, that is your horror noir for sure. Between the two, but now
I will say real quick, Evan, I think I got cut off here.
Sure.
I think your placement in this sort of outlander kind of town with this desert bar in the middle of nowhere, every person you find there is probably suspect, which I think is lends itself to you sort of taking those turns and usurping expectations and the twist. So great job. Just the placement alone kind of does the heavy lifting there. And it's kind of a stroke. So
yeah. But then everyone at that bar is a regular. So it could go either way. Like you're like, well, how can everyone know each other and be a regular and be there? They can't be that bad. But then again, maybe they're all the same kind of bad. And so but it is, I do like that we don't, you don't spell it out. There isn't like an obvious, this is who these people are. It's like, this is a strange place that you created, this bar in the middle of absolutely nowhere with the one grapefruit tree. I kept expecting that to be like some kind of weird supernatural magic. And maybe it is, I don't know. But there was, but then again, you say they're so prevalent down there that it's like, or maybe not. Maybe it's just like every place has a grapefruit tree. What are you talking about? But that I don't know. All right. So
yeah, it was interesting. Manhattan? I thought, I'm like, a lot of ways it could have went.
Yeah.
Sorry, you guys,
are we ready, guys?
Bit? I feel.
I think there's a lag. I think
there's a little lag. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But you're not stuttering or anything like that. But I think there's like, I'll ask a question and pause, and I'm like, oh, did he hear me? And then you finally answer, and I'm like, okay, give you some time to actually get that across. So if there's a lag, but Manhattan. Are we ready to mix a Manhattan? Because I'm ready to mix a Manhattan.
Well, we got. Oh yeah, let me finish his drink. Don't chug a good Paloma. Come on.
Refreshing.
We don't chug Palomas around here.
All right. What am I putting?
We do when I can make 20 more after this call.
Exactly.
All right.
Oh, and we do have, while you're pulling that up.
This is
yep, there it is.
All right.
Billy Zane is the man. Also missed Tales from the Crypt. Yes, I missed Tales from the Crypt too. All right, so I've got that on another tab here as well. All right, let's do it.
Pull up the recipe.
Let's do it.
Beautiful little glass there, little
powerful.
shaker, little mixer. There's the glass.
All right, you guys got me. You ready to go?
Let's do it.
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, so Manhattans traditionally are stirred, not shaken, but if you only have a shaker, that's okay. You can shake it. I won't hold it against you.
All right.
Manhattans are a very, very, very classic cocktail, one of the older ones in the United States, all the way back to Prohibition. It was made early on with rye. So you can make it with rye or bourbon. I prefer rye. Today I'm going to be using Old Forester rye, which is one of my favorite go-tos.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Similar to Casamigos in that it's affordable but still good. This is 100 proof, so it's got a little bit of a bite, which I enjoy.
Woo. Holy shit.
All right, so it's pretty easy. You take 2 ounces of rye. I just want to make sure I get all the tequila out of my mixer. Not that it would really hurt it, because people make tequila Manhattans and stuff too. But I'm gonna go 2 ounces of rye in here into my rye mixer. For those of you who aren't familiar with mixing glasses, this is called a rye mixer because of the pattern on it. It's from Japan, actually. This one isn't from Japan, but that's where it's originated. It's just a fancy mixing glass. So I got my rye whiskey, and then use sweet vermouth. So I'm going to do, let's see what it says, an ounce of this. Recipe calls for here.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your vermouth sweet vermouth, as the name implies, is sweet. It's like it's the closest thing we're going to have on closest thing to a wine we're going to have on today's show is vermouth, which I think technically is a wine, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's made from grapes. I think they still consider it a liqueur or a mixer or something like that. Yeah.
Actually, it's lovely on its own with a little club soda.
Oh, yeah. Sweet vermouth is anyway, I think. Yeah. All right. Whew. And bitters.
All right. Yep, we got our ounce of vermouth, and then you take your bitters. There's all kinds you can get, but Angostura is the one that's the staple in pretty much every bar in the world. Classic bitters. Put 4, 5, 6 good drops in there, depending on if you like it a little more sweet or a little more bitter. I prefer bitter, so I go a little heavier. And then give her a good stir. There you go. And strain over ice, and you have yourself Manhattan. But one of the most important parts of Manhattan,
gotta have the cherry,
is the garnish.
Yep. I have some German black cherries rather than maraschino. I don't know if that's how much of a difference that's making, but I'm gonna try it.
Oh, I hate maraschino cherry.
I'm sure it'll be good. I have Luxardos. See, and as you know, if you read the story, it's kind of important that I have 2 cherries in here because that's a theme in the story.
That's what I did. I did too. Yay! All right. Yeah, wait.
All right, simple, classic, easy. Goes back to Prohibition when whiskey and rye was terrible, and they had to add sweeteners to it, like vermouth in this case, or the old fashioned, which is just sugar for the most part. So, great recipe that holds up today.
Yeah, I was gonna say my fingers are sticky after making this one.
Cheers.
Ooh, cheers. Clink. Take a sip of kombucha, Dallas. Get in the spirit.
Oh yeah,
Dave hasn't had a cocktail. This is a good way to break the 2-year cherry with a double cherry. Coincidence?
Yeah. A bit of an aside here. Apparently, one of the origin stories for the Manhattan itself was at a party in 1876 here for a presidential candidate who, of course, lost, but in attendance was Winston Churchill's mother, and apparently someone asked for a very specific cocktail, and this was created that night. The earliest recipes list gum syrup and absinthe as part of the ingredients, so, which I can't imagine. Honestly, I can't imagine absinthe in.
I mean,
no, but I don't.
It's got a
They do a splash of absinthe in in a Sazerac, and it goes good with that, which is
that's true.
sugar and
there you go.
rye as well. So, and
Yeah, were you saying
it's
that
not
was
too much different? The only difference is honestly the
There's absinthe.
Were you saying
Sazerac.
Dallas, that the absinthe completely replaced the rye whiskey, or that it was,
It's
there
just
was
disappeared over the years, and I'm sure that the recipe's been updated and claimed. It's difficult to trace the actual origins of things.
And
like
regionally,
this.
it might have changed from depending on what was available.
But it's been a very popular drink for more than 100 years, as he was saying.
It's this one. This one is though. Sorry, the lag time. Sorry.
Go ahead, Evan.
Go ahead.
Sorry, guys. My router is on the opposite side of my house when I'm out here, so it screws my.
Oh, it's all good.
See, I should have thought of that in advance.
What were you saying about
absinthe?
What
I was saying is that a lot of cocktails back in the day, they used absinthe as like a rinse, like Sazeracs traditionally, or a lot of other ones. They rinse the glass in absinthe first, dump it all out, and then just make the cocktail in there, so you get the aromatics and the florals of it as part of the experience.
That makes sense, because drinking absinthe on its own as a drink is painful for me. Just something about that herbal, medicinal kind of like Jägermeister adjacent flavor profile. I just can't do.
Right.
See, I'm a Jaeger fan, so I can do it. But it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. I think, did I tell, were you on me? This might have been one of the shows you missed, but I was telling someone else about how much when I was a kid, my mom had to watch me so I didn't drink Pepto-Bismol because I loved the flavor of it so much. So yeah, I do like certain medicinal flavors. Oh yeah, wait, you were on that one because that's the one that I did the Amaro with. And I was like, yeah, medicinal. Give me medicinal. It's so good. It's like candy to me. I was a sick child. I'm still a sick child.
So real quick, Evan, in terms of your drinking history, I remember my first drink. I was never a big drinker. I had like one beer by the time I was 20. And then I found myself in college, and you end up at bars, and what do you want to drink? And the one drink I could recall was a tequila sunrise. So for about 6 years, that is the only drink I would order, and they are disgusting. I mean, so disgusting.
Yeah.
And they've always been disgusting, but it was the only drink because I wasn't a big drinker. So that was my go-to, my first drink. What was that for you?
Oh, well, I grew up in northern Wisconsin, so we drank a whole lot of shitty beer and Captain Morgan and crap.
Cap
like
and
that.
Coke.
Nothing real good. Yeah.
Cap and Coke.
So tell us, Evan. So we haven't gotten to the story of the Manhattan yet in terms of your story of the Manhattan. So this beverage, what had you come up with the Manhattan story as it exists in mixology?
Yes. So I've always thought the Manhattan was fascinating because it's so simple, but it's popular, and every place has their own little take on it, whether it's just tweaking it or trying to elevate it by doing weird little garnishes and shit that never really change anything. It's just this, it's a drink that is the same and always has been, other than the weird absinthe and stuff back in the day. But I always thought it was a drink like, I always observed in the past, people that drank Manhattans would sit down and it was always like some, 70-year-old retired woman that would sit down and drink 8 of them, and just stumble out of the bar, and you're like, where's she going? I don't know where she's going, if she's getting there. And it always just, there's a certain type of character that I always kind of noticed would drink and love Manhattans, and that somewhat is kind of what I dovetailed into the story for the woman in the story. But it's too easy to just go into a bar and sit there, and if Manhattan's your drink, they go down easy, considering that they're 99.5% alcohol. So obviously you read the story, so you know kind of where it snowballs into and the weird shit that happens. But I'm like, God, you get that Manhattan whiskey drunk, and then you just go out into the universe and shit happens. It might be reality, it might not be. And that's kind of what I wanted to explore with that story.
Very nice. Yeah, even just sitting here drinking right now, like compared to admittedly they were canned Palomas, the alcohol level was pretty low. I think they were around like 7% or something. And I can already tell from this one, I am sipping it slow because I'm like, woo, 2 sips. And I'm like, I feel the fumes coming out of my nose now that I'm breathing. It's like, it's got that alcohol level.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this one, unlike the Paloma story, the Manhattan story is very, let's call it character driven, for lack of a better way of saying it. It is much more focused on the one protagonist that we're following, and yet still has a kind of twist ending. Like, this is something that I do think I appreciate about both the stories in this volume of Mixology, is that you have a way to draw the reader in, but you're really good at the misdirection in both stories in terms of like what it is we're doing with this character and where it's all going. And both stories have a functional surprise at the end of it, where it's like it works and you don't feel like what the fuck was that, or you don't, but it is an authentic surprise. You also don't quite see it coming the way it happens. So yeah, kudos on that.
Thanks. And I want to tell you that I think you maybe just coined the new term for the year, functional surprise. I like that.
For lack of a better term, but hey, if you love it, great, go with it. I'm like, my vocabulary sucks tonight, but functional surprise.
You are drinking cocktails for the first time in 2 years, so I'll let your vocabulary slide.
I think so.
I will say,
I think I'm going to struggle through the rest of this. But on that note, struggling through the rest of this, let's actually take a quick look at the Kickstarter page before I take too many more sips of this Manhattan, while I can still talk and narrate as we go through. So let me share my screen.
I keep forgetting we're talking about comics and not just drinking and cocktails.
I know, exactly. But that's the joy of this show and what you're doing with Mixology, is they're kind of one and the same. They're supposed to be kind of one and the same thing. That is the point.
Right.
Have fun with both at the same time. So as you can see, folks, we are Mixology Noir, Paloma and Manhattan, very close. 3,100 out of 4,500. That is easily, 3/4 of the way there. 25% approximately left to go. 62 hours to go. So in the final 3 days, but we will definitely make it. But if you have not checked this Kickstarter out, if you have not checked out either of these Mixology Noir volumes, these things, they're incredibly well crafted, both in the story and the art. And you have fun, whether you're a drinker or not. These are stories inspired by and connected to historical cocktails, cultural cocktails. And it's like, it tweaks our boats. We're wine and comics. Like, we're like, yeah, the culture and the history of comics and wine. We love that shit. But there's a lot of fun to be had from it. Even just reading the comic, you don't even have to drink the cocktails if you're not into that, or if you're like Blake and you're on a sober run in your life, and go for it if that's what you're doing. But it's still a lot of fun to see what stories are come out.
Let's be clear. Blake is not sober. He's just not drinking.
Not drinking. Sober in terms of alcohol. This is 100% true. Like I said, everyone picks their vices, right? What they think are the better vices for them. Yes. Well, and we were talking about functional, and it's like, pick the vice you think you're the most functional with, right? And that becomes the more important. It's like, I can drink and still do a lot of things, or I can smoke and do a lot of things. But if I do too much of the other one, I wind up kind of being useless to the rest of the world. So maybe I have to tone down that one. All dependent. See, for me, I've said this on other shows, like, I don't smoke, but I will do edibles from time to time, but I normally use them to go to sleep because they wipe. Like, I am not high. I'm not a high functioning weed guy. I am like, as soon as it starts to hit me, I'm like, oh, and my brain has stopped and I am ready to just like slowly pass out. And that's the end of everything. So that is not my functional vice.
Real quick here, Evan, just for my own shits and giggles here, is there a full-length poster version of that shot from Manhattan, the double cherry shot in the glass?
That's a nice frame, isn't that? Yeah.
I may need a poster of that one.
I have not made it. I think that's one of the pages in the previous here, honestly.
Oh, it might be. Love it.
Yeah, it's that was one of the first pages when I did this story, that I had that scene in my head, the whole shower and glass scene. And I think one of the recent updates I actually shared the trajectory of how that page was made and how I went back and forth with the artist and like the sketches and everything. And that one really set the stage in my brain about how I wanted to craft this story. I ended up deleting more than half of the dialogue I had initially written, and it became, as you know, more of kind of a surreal, like visual story where you go through. There's not a lot of dialogue in this story, very little. And it kind of just is guided by the actions. And that page is what changed my thinking about that.
Yeah, I will say the sort of mood you guys managed to craft into this, you know, with, like you said, very sparingly used dialogue is fantastic. You know, that page alone, and guys, I highly recommend, we will highly recommend you go and check this damn thing out because it's kind of fucking fantastic. A lot of these panels, a lot of these pages can stand on their own as art pieces, truly, and that is difficult to say with a lot of the comics that are coming out nowadays. So
appreciate that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Great job.
100%. I will see if I can find that image to throw up on the screen here. While I'm doing that, let's actually play. Let's see. There's no video up above, but there is a flip through right here. I'm going to play this flip through for everybody. Hold on 1 second. Here we go.
The magic of technology.
Oh my gosh, so good.
Yeah, this is a double feature, so there's 2 stories printed back to back.
Yeah, and flipped, right?
Our friend Travis says Travis hates flip books, but he told me that mine was the only one he ever liked, so I'll throw that out.
What? Why does he hate flip books? What is wrong with the flip book? Oh, that's beautiful. I love flip books. I don't know if it's oh, come on. Come back to me. Nope, I'm gonna have to.
And talk us through that cover, through this cover, Evan.
So I think I talked about this last time I was on the show. I know I didn't because I was talks, but the origin of this book was me sitting in. I mean, I write a lot of comics in dimly lit bars, drinking a cocktail myself. That's kind of how I operate. Very quote unquote Hemingway-ish, whatever. But
me too. But
I wanted to make a book that was, you know, fucking pretty. Like when this is printed, it's got embossing, foil, different features, soft touch laminate. So I wanted the cover to be classic and inspired by something you might see, you know, on a granite bar top in a dimly lit speakeasy. And that was what I wanted, the message I conveyed to the artist, DNS, who did the covers for the last one too. Just really contemporary, white space, classic. And I did all the graphic design for the framing and everything on there too to make it feel kind of old worldly. And I just love those. The variant covers are awesome too. They're more traditional comic covers, but I really like the negative white space kind of main covers we made.
I agree. Yeah,
it stands
They're
out.
really great.
Great
yes. Job. Absolutely.
Great.
And then you see we have the Paloma, which is the quote unquote first story, but it's a flip book. You can read them or whatever. I actually read them in the opposite order now that I think about it. I read Manhattan first, then Paloma. I liked that. I thought that worked really well. But regardless, book 2, story 1, Paloma. So you can see here's that negative white space we were talking about with then that little bit of color spiced in there and the little bit and the color of the drink in the title of the Paloma. I really appreciate that in there. This is the alternate. Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
That too.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah.
Great.
That's awesome.
Look at that palette, man.
But yeah, the interior pages, the palette on the inside, how much, like all the craziness that happens in the story, like, yeah, it's really well done, really good. And that is Eric Palicki. Oh, for editing, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
creator writing. Who's our sequential? Here we go, Miguel Guzman.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's cool. So is Miguel Mexican ethnicity for the Paloma story?
He is. Yep. And I actually found him. I believe I found both of these artists through Travis. I actually worked with Travis on different things in the past. Both amazing artists.
Right
what's one of the other fun things about this story is my goal was to use a different artist for every story. So the style is different, but the graphic design, everything, and writing is cohesive. And I'm hoping to make another one just because it's the most fun I've ever had writing a comic, even though they're not the most successful. That doesn't matter. I have the most fun making them.
It kind of shows, man. Like I'm telling you, like
yeah.
the the passion you guys have just sort of woven through those pages. And I keep going back to Manhattan because, like you said, the dialogue is pretty sparing. And the pages, the panels just tell the story, which is kind of, best case scenario for comics. And you do a great job, just great fucking job all around. So it shows.
A story like that makes you realize that writing is important, but art is more important.
It kind of is.
It humbles you as a writer, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm a guy who will write a monologue for every character. So yeah, that is humbling.
Yeah. Yes, he will. All right. Is this the page you were talking about, Dallas, with the two cherries?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So you have the character here. She is she's in a shower and it fills up with the liquid of the Manhattan, becomes a Manhattan glass with the two cherries suddenly popping up on top as she's being drowned, or seemingly drowned anyway. That is part of the fun of reading this story, is figuring out what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, and you don't know for the vast majority of it, but hopefully it makes sense at the end.
Right.
It does. 100%. And makes sense in a way that you still aren't sure. Not in the way you thought it was going to make sense. Let's put it that way. Right. So still sleight of hand. Surprise.
I don't know about you guys, but the way I think of noir and the way that I was kind of always, my brain always assumed noir worked in the past, is like, you're not supposed to like the characters and you're not supposed to be happy with the ending. It's terrible. There's no happy ending. You're supposed to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And if you're not a little uncomfortable at the end of a noir, they didn't do their job.
That's right. It's that dissonance. You need to exist in the dissonance at the end of a piece. I love those noir pieces where you walk away still not sure which character you were rooting for, if you were rooting for.
Right. Because
if there was even
no one's
one you liked. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Right.
So I was going to say, no one's a good guy in noir. 100% a good guy at the very least. Like, everyone is, even when you think about like the classic Private Eye, Private Dick, noirs, that Private Eye is always someone who like has a shady past, is kind of a broken person. They're certainly not the worst. They might have a good intention as the protagonist of the piece, but it's like they're still not entirely you don't know if they're dependable. They're more self-interested than caring about the other characters, so they could fuck off at any time and drop the case and not care if it gets too hard, if it gets whatever. And usually they keep going because someone pisses them off, not because they actually care about being good. And so then it becomes like, oh, well, I'm going to figure this out because, someone's trying to stop me and fuck with me. And so it's like, no one's a good person, but you do sometimes wind up having the obvious person you're rooting for, but no one's good. Yeah.
That's the hard part about noir, is like, in most stories as a writer, your goal is to create a story that your reader connects with, right? And to see themselves in the shoes of some character, or at least understand, the movement of the story in a way that feels familiar to them. But in noir, you're like exposing all the dark sides of humanity, and there's no redeeming qualities. And especially when you're putting drinking in the mix, like, one of the things I wanted to do here was imagine self-imagine, some through the lens of my own life and stuff too, as well. Like, yeah, these characters might suck, but you might see some stuff in there that you don't want to realize as a part of yourself, but it might still be there, So it's hard to build that connection and make it something what somebody wants to stick through to see. But
yes,
that's human nature, I guess.
I think what you do well here, and what is done well in really good noir, is that it is essentially about these characters who are just intersecting at a random moment, and you don't know if it's good, bad, black or white, and at the end of the day, they're going to part ways, and, the story moves on. I think that's why I like the energy of noir so much, and why I like the energy of what you're doing here. It's fun in a way. It's just, noir's always fun for me. Noir's always fun for me.
You know what else I kind of personally realized writing this, that as I was imagining and thinking through noir, is like, very rarely is there ever a setup for a sequel. Noir never ends in like a cliffhanger where like, what's next? They're like, that story's fucking done.
Right.
Very true. Very true.
I mean, again,
it's like a really good one-off horror comedy. dark comedy, or dark horror. It just
and you think about
it's satisfying. There's no real room for reiteration, or it just is its perfect moment. So yeah.
Well, you think about even Chinatown, and then Jack Nicholson tried to make a sequel called The Two Jakes, which everyone was like, "What the fuck is this?" And no one really liked it. No one really understood it, because making a sequel to noir often defeats the purpose of what made the story great in the first place. Yeah.
Don't mind me. I'm just going to make another Paloma.
Oh, go for it. Go for it. I went back
after this Monday.
after having a few sips of the Manhattan, I needed one more sip of that refreshing Paloma. I'm with you there. It's like it kind of takes the edge off of the heaviness of the Manhattan and the punch of the Manhattan. And we do have whether you're drinking or not, these are great comics. And the first Mixology Noir was a beautiful comic. I do agree with that.
Second time we've heard.
And then we also have I Don't Drink, but I love the stories of the first volume. I agree. I love the stories of the first volume, but I will tell both of you, I like volume 2 more than volume 1.
Me too.
100%.
So it's going from strength to strength. It's actually getting even better. And I will also tell you, Evan, as you were saying, these aren't as the most like high performing or successful of your books compared to others. But as someone who created the Wine and Comics Pairing Show, and it's been a slow build of viewership and subscribers and all that fun stuff, it's like when you combine two things like this, people are kind of like, the fuck is that? I mean, it's cute, it's interesting, but I don't know what to do with it. And it just takes people time. But I hope you stick with it, because I do think from volume 1 to volume 2, like I said, it's gotten even better. I love it. I hope you keep making them.
My goal long term, and I think I have a pretty good lead on this actually, is that these books were written to be, they're double features, 31 pages for each story, with the intent that they could be published in the direct market as individual stories as well. So I'm hoping that's going to be the next evolution of these. There's not as much of an appetite in the direct market for non-serialized stuff, but if you find the right horror publisher, you just might have a chance.
Mm-hmm. I think, and you know what? These days, like, compare it to Ice Cream Man. I'm telling you, like a noir version of Ice Cream Man, people will. I think publishers will bite at that. So hopefully, or at least want to take a look at it. At the very okay, send it over, and then they can make it from there.
Yeah.
All right. So as you can see, guys, this is Manhattan. The other story, that's cover 1. Here is the crazy cover, the alternate cover 2. Beautiful.
Yeah, and okay, all right, yeah. I want to say it. This is all the pieces of you guys as I've seen, I've worked, I've read. This is top of the heap for me. Manhattan is just my bag, my friend.
Get a yard, Goulart.
It was the most creatively fulfilling. It was the one where I scripted the least, and I deleted half the shit I wrote and worked with the artist and just kind of went through that journey together and came up with something that felt very much my life and feelings on the paper. And I think it shows in terms of, like, I told Eric this after I had written it and he was reviewing. I was like, I'm concerned there's not enough dialogue in here. It feels like I didn't even write anything, and the artist and me just talked about our feelings, and somehow there's a story now. And it works somehow.
Well, I think you found a new sort of not gimmick, but maybe doing more of that is probably part of the secret sauce, because it is. I mean, it's top notch for sure.
Well, and I think people, when it comes to noir, a lot of it. There are some classic examples where it's a lot of talking heads, where it's a lot of people standing around in rooms making a lot of like one-liners and a lot of banter back and forth, like hard, tough guy banter back and forth at each other. But noir, for the most part, like that's not necessary. That's not required. Like noir it is that like dark. You're exploring an element of these characters where, as we've already mentioned, they're not heroes. They're not likable. They're not. You're not supposed to connect with them per se, or at least you're only supposed to connect to them with, like, if I was in as bad a place as this person, this could be me. That's about as good as it gets in terms of connectability. And otherwise, you're seeing people at their lowest part of their lowest levels. Oh, here we go. Brian does mention noir is mood, and it is. It's mood, it's aesthetic, and I think the best noir, like some of the best noir movies are literally like kind of slow chase scenes where it's like, your hero is like following someone, and this will go on through a city for like fucking 10 minutes in a movie, and it's all silent. It's all just following and watching what these characters do and them taking pictures and moving on to the next thing. And it's like, there's no dialogue. There's no story. Like, you're just seeing
but you're
everything
him.
happen.
You're feeling it with him and going through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
I will say the other interesting thing about like writing these stories too, and part of the reason I picked these as short stories, like self-contained, 31-page stories, is that I didn't have to be concerned with the talking head, because I didn't have to further long-term storyline or a long form narrative.
Right.
And I encourage you guys and every comic writer to try to make one-shot stories of this length, because it felt like the exact right amount of pages to try to tell a story where I didn't get burdened by concern about long-term shit I'd have to try to retcon or get continuity for. I could just play within those pages, and noir and horror is the perfect genre to do that with, because you have, everyone needs some kind of horrific ending with horror, or in noir's case, just an emotional letdown.
You know where you're going.
It was fun.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea too, just to sort of use it as an exercise to kind of find a story, tell the story in and out as completely as you need to tell it, without having to set up, like you said, all those other story pieces, skeletal pieces, and structural pieces. I think I may have to go and do that soon. And
how if you're like me, you probably just worry about something and you're going to do writing issue 3 and then going back and editing 1 and you're trying to polish this thing. But when it's only 31 pages, you can do that and you don't lose your mind, because you're only dealing with it in a way where you're really focusing that laser, and it's a very, I enjoyed the experience, and I felt really, really good about the final, the final script in a way that I haven't yet about any long form content I've created.
Yeah.
And we have, Brian chimes in again. Right. Feels like the mood is reflective, it's introspective, and the world warps and unfolds with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially for this Manhattan story. That is almost to a T exactly what happens. All right. So now we're here at the...
Now the Manhattan has a sister cocktail. What is it called?
The Negroni?
Is it Negroni? Maybe it's Negroni.
Negroni is similar.
Yeah, maybe it's Negroni. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say Negroni, Manhattan, and Old Fashioned are all in the same category.
Old Fashioned. That's the guy.
Old Fashioned. Okay. Yeah. Because what is Negroni? What is the liquor in that? It's not whiskey, I don't think.
You can make Negronis. If I'm not remembering very good. I don't like them, so I never remember specifically anymore. But I think people make them with gin sometimes.
Gin, vermouth,
Negroni. I know they do the egg froth on the top. Campari. That's what I was thinking of.
Campari,
yeah.
And the egg froth,
I do like a Negroni. As I've already mentioned, it's been a while since I've had one, but that used to be one of my gin and tonics and Negronis, which makes sense that we almost conflated it with gin. Those are kind of my two basic mixed cocktails that I will go to at a bar. If I don't know the bar, I don't know what they specialize in, and I'm just like G&T or Negroni, depending on my mood. Those are my two.
Well, I'm going to be sad in a couple months, Dave, if I watch a Wine and Comics and you're just hammering cocktails and you fell off the cocktail bandwagon because of this episode. You're like, fuck wine, I'm drinking cocktails now.
I mean, I've always thought, Dallas is more of the going off the beaten path than I am. I think I've done it like once where I brought on a literal non-wine to pair with something, but Dallas will do it actually kind of regularly. Like every like once a month, he'll bring on something that is not technically a wine and just be like, "This is what I'm drinking with this," and I'm like, "All right." He's braver about that than me, but I've always thought that was fair game. Like we can branch out from wine. It's just sort of our core. But yeah, we're equal opportunity drinkers. We love
That's
it.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. All right. So book 2 PDF. This is your basic. Now remember, guys, this is a double-sized issue. This is 72 pages. So the PDF is $12. But this is essentially a small graphic novel that you're getting out of this. Or just one. There you go. Or just one story for half. So $6 if you want a regular ish. That's still 30 something pages, like 36 pages. But one story PDF. If that's what you want for $6, make it a double, which is Ooh, that's nice. So a little bit of a deal. Get both of them digitally. Yeah, all 4 stories for $20. It's only $8 more.
They're not sequential, so you.
Yeah.
You don't need to have read number 1.
Yeah, they're all standalone stories. They have nothing to do with each other. They're just noir based on cocktails. And then what other genres get blended in with that noir is dependent on each story and what's
those 4 covers together are just great.
I know. This was you did stumble. And Dallas mentioned, and we've already talked about the white space and what these covers really look like. But this is like a trading card design, but at a size of a cover, so you can put so much more detail in these images that are, like when you look at the colored parts and everything that's going on in these images, like there's a lot in these covers, and they're gorgeous.
That artist he goes by DNS, but he's on Twitter. He's always looking for commission work. I've used him for so many things, including a lot of like interior chapter transition pages and credit pages and stuff. He's a very, very, very good artist. And he's very affordable. So if you need any good stuff, go look him up, give him some money.
And you said DNS?
Yep, yeah. DNS. Yep.
He was right here, DNS, primary cover. You can see it. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think on Twitter he's Portless, Portles, if I recall. But I can send it. I can send you his info if you're curious.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to hawk these guys, of course, because they're great and affordable.
Of course. Well, and honestly, I've been getting some sketch cards done for an upcoming Kickstarter as well. And like this guy, like I think that's why my brain went to cards. I saw these, I was this guy would make a great sketch card. So yeah, I think I would, if not this time around, like I'm interested in the future at the very least, maybe even right away. So I will definitely go look him up. All right, and then print, you can get the latest book for $20 plus shipping, of course. And that is 74 pages. Plus covers. Goddamn. All right. High quality paper. Yes.
I think it's 76 total with the cover. Because there's like the interior. I did a couple art pages in between and the recipe pages and stuff.
Gotcha. All right. And then make it a double. That's both of them in print for 38, of course. Collector. One copy. One copy of both of the variants and both of the retails. Each book signed. Limited art print, soft touch laminate cardstock, limited die cut sticker, motherfucker. Okay. That's very cool. That's the print. There's your die cut sticker. I like that. That's cool. All right. And then for add-ons, of course, you can mix and match as you need. If you only need a print copy of either one, options include retail or variant cover edition. So yeah, if you wanted to get, say, both standard, but only one of the alternates, you could do it that way. And there's your Vesper and Sazerac. And the Ignis Quadrant, my favorite. Still my favorite. As much as I love Mixology Noir, still my favorite.
I have 2 more issues ready to go. We're going to start that soon. And I just signed the Ignis Quadrant's coming to the direct market from Band of Bards in a couple of months too.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Well, I will have to, my local comic shop. So they're about to solicit it, or it's about to hit shops?
It's a couple of months. It'll solicit in May or June for July release. So you guys.
Okay. Perfect. I will look for that so I can support it, because I do pre-orders through LA local comic shop. So I will definitely keep my eyes out for that and make sure I'm searching. Because they always post. There's one comic shop here in LA, Golden Apple, that's really, they have no one else seems to do this, but you can pre-order to pick up at the comic shop online. Like they'll list everything in previews every month. And then you just go through and like literally pay for it right then and there. And then they'll hold it for you, and you can, so it's 100%.
That's how shops should make money. I don't know why people don't do that. It's ridiculous.
I know.
It kills me. 2024.
100%. And I discovered that because I think they started it during the pandemic. I think it became kind of that necessity thing where no one would go to the shop. So they're like, okay, well, everyone can pre-order this way online. But then they held on to it after the pandemic. But no one else did it, which blows my mind. All right. So Ignis Quadrant, guys, sci-fi comic, really, really good. First full volume is done. And then more in 160 plus full color pages. And then more on its way. Tox, of course. We talked to Evan about Tox the last time he was on the show. This is also an amazing post-apocalyptic. You can call it sci-fi. Let's call it sci-fi. Post-apocalyptic sci-fi as well.
Sure.
150 plus pages, full color.
Wow.
Yeah. And
busy, bud.
Confidence.
Oh man. Well, that's coming too. I have like, I don't know, probably 12 issues of other series done. I just gotta get them on the internet and publishers.
Beautiful. Something to aspire to, for sure.
So good. Okay.
Yeah, it really is.
No more. Yeah, don't want to reveal too much. We're gonna keep going there. And then this is the Manhattan, the more character-driven, abstract one that has all this fun imagery.
With some sexiness. You gotta have a little sexiness in there.
Plainly, of course. And I do love that she's just like
chugging.
Yeah, I know. It's like, yeah, that you might have a problem if you literally can't take a shot.
Something's not quite right here. Yeah.
Right. And she literally, like, she's like, I'm so drunk. She passes out on the bed, wakes back up, is like, okay, I'm disgusting. I need to go take a shower. Keeps drinking. I'm like, you just passed out from drinking and woke back up and started drinking, which I know
Hair of the dog.
How it works. Exactly. It's how it works. But yeah, that was. But then of course,
dealing with some shit.
It starts to hallucinate from it all. Or is it hallucinating? And that's the question. Beautiful. Full page thumbnails, of course. And all right, anything that we haven't mentioned yet, but I think we covered it pretty well.
You covered it top to bottom.
Yep. All right. Boom.
Good stuff, man.
It's so good. Yeah. So again, folks, if you haven't packed this, like,
do it.
Whatever you can do, $6 gets you one story PDF. Like, even if you're hard up, like, get in there, back this thing. These are I'm not the biggest fan all the time of anthology comics and anthology stories. Like, I've actually tried, even though I just brought up Ice Cream Man, I have been trying to get into Ice Cream Man. I still kind of haven't been able to. I keep reading stories from it and I'm like, they're fine, I think, but something keeps me at arm's distance from Ice Cream Man, even though that is probably the best-selling one right now, in terms of and not that each comic has multiple stories in it, but each comic is its own standalone story with hardly any connection between them. I think it's rare when and if it happens, but these stories do it for me. So if you like Ice Cream Man, I think you'll love these. I think they're better versions of what Ice Cream Man is trying to do, and they're connected to cocktails. So, like, what is there not to love?
And if nothing else, I can personally promise you that when you get this book in your hands, if you buy the printed version, that you will not have a more beautiful, graphically intentionally designed book in your hands this year.
Yeah. Yep. I look forward to it. You are awesome, Mr. Brian. All right. Well, that is,
it gives us an excuse to drink and talk about comics. So I'll keep creating.
It does. I was going to say there's no wine pairings at the end of this one. This is what we're drinking, and we're done. We're done with the business. So let's talk that. Right. Oh, but Mr. Evan, there is actually one last bit of business because this time you asked, and I actually remembered to tell you, which is that was there some other comic that you wanted to shout out that you are loving right now?
Yes. So I think Dave froze for a second. You guys got me still? I'll shout it up.
Yeah, you're good.
I do.
You just keep talking.
All right.
It'll catch up. You keep going.
So Interstellar Dust is written by my homie Chris Hudson, who is a collaborator of mine. We're co-writing multiple series that are going to be coming out from Open Press in the near future. But Interstellar Dust is published by Antarctic Press. They're on, I believe, the third season or story arc right now. And I just recently started reading it myself, and I love it. I love sci-fi. It's hitting me in all the right places. And the recommended cocktail I would pair with it that first jumped to mind for me was a Cosmo, and not like the cheap, shitty one that your housewife is drinking, like a nice one with fresh cranberry and Chambord and good vodka, like a bright sci-fi cocktail.
Like it.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
I'm not familiar with Interstellar Dust. Actually, I'm going to check this out.
I'm going to actually.
If you like sci-fi,
I can
read it.
I do.
And it is here. I'm going to share my screen real quick. So it is on Webtoon. If you want to guys check out a couple of pages that were going on at one point with it, you can at least see a preview of it. Like it looks like 25 pages are up on Webtoons. And then let's actually let's just open a page. Let's see what this looks like.
The art style is super fun and vibrant in this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the high level pitch for 5 seconds is it's a prison transport full of a bunch of intergalactic criminals that come together on this prison transport, and it's about them trying to break out and all their hijinks. It's lewd, sexual, fun, a lot of good times for the adult reader who likes sci-fi.
Beautiful.
Oh, yes, I definitely heard about this, but I've never read it. Yeah.
Yeah, this feels like a very a pulpier version of like the Inkle or something like that. If anyone's familiar with Jodorowsky and Mabius's Inkle European graphic novels and whatnot.
I would say it's like the Inkle becomes Ocean 11 with more blood and sex.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Back to Clooney, huh?
Yeah, right? I can't get rid of that guy.
Very cool. This is all very, very cool.
Yeah.
Who's the artist on this one? I dig him. I'll have to look that up as well.
I forget. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, he's kind of got a he's somewhere between like take Mabius's The Inkle or things of that nature, but then add like Keith Giffen's art style to it, which always had this much more. I don't even know. I don't have the language to define what this art is in the background, but this like patchwork, sketchy, and yet it's like so many lines are happening on the page, and yet it's not hard to break it down and see what's happening. That's always such
little rendering. It somehow manages to have a lot of layers of depth.
Yes,
it's very cool.
So go read it. It's really good. And there's a lot of there's like 3 volumes to sink your teeth into. Well, it's on volume.
Holy shit. Holy shit. Okay. I did not realize it was going on that long. I thought it was on like issue 5 or 6 or something like that. Oh, damn. Okay.
Cool.
All right. Interstellar.
Right.
Yeah. Interstellar Dust, Antarctic Press. You can find it at your local comic shop, probably, or Amazon. If that's the only way. Go there and order the trade paperbacks. Very cool. Yeah, I'd seen CJ talking about this on the Discords and whatnot, and this has been on my radar for a little while, but I have not taken the plunge yet. So
I can promise you'll like it, Dave. Since you like the Ignis Quadrant, you'll like this. It's the same dirty sci-fi vibe. You'll like it.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Oh yeah, I love that.
All right, we may have to do a special pairing episode for that one.
Oh, he'll get on here.
Okay. So as we continue to sip and talk,
I'm gone with my third cocktail. This is your fault.
And I'm on. Well, I drank two half Palomas, and I'm still on my Manhattan. This Manhattan is kicking my ass. I'm going slow with it, but I like it. But wow. I'm so used to wine alcohol percentages.
Yeah.
I'm definitely like, woo, okay, got to slow down on that one.
You can blame my full-time job for this situation.
And so your full-time job, are you still a mixologist?
No, I am a software engineer.
There you go. Okay. And so how do we? So, as a software engineer, do you drink a lot? Is that where I'm trying to see, like, blame my full-time job for this, and I'm like, software engineer. How do we blame that?
Yeah, there's a little stress involved of late while trying to manage a rising comics career and other things. But
That's right.
I also just like it, so I don't want to put the
vice.
onus on anyone but myself.
Yeah. I see that. So my question for you, your favorite. So you did Mixology Noir. What are your favorite noir? I want to ask noir comics, but there aren't a crazy amount of those per se. So if you want to just say noir stories of any kind, any media, any format, go with that. But
yeah,
like, what
I mean,
noir?
I'm gonna seem like a charlatan here, but I'm not a big fan of noir in general.
Ooh.
Honestly, what intrigued me about noir was learning more about it, and I researched and got into noir more from the standpoint of a research standpoint, I guess. Understand like what it meant and how stories were crafted. And I think the ones that I've known the longest that you can categorize as noir, like the Sin City, the black and white noir-esque stories, but not a lot of the real old classic ones. So I probably have no good examples for you. I'm more of a analytical student of research of the genre than an actual practicing fan, which don't hate me for saying that, but thus is life.
No, that clocks. Again, that seems to be, I think we mentioned this the last time you were on, but it's like, that is your shtick in a lot of ways. Like, what motivates you and what drives you is like, you'll see something that you're just like, I want to, whether it's, I want to do that, or whether you're just like, what is that thing? And so, but I think a lot of people go into it more from the consumption side, where it's like, what is that thing? I'll consume a shit ton of it to find out. And you're more of a analytical version of that, where it's like, no, I'm just going to look up like what people have written about noir. What have people written about the storytelling and the genre, and like what makes it, which is interesting, because I would say that all the short stories, all the single stories in these Mixology Noir, I was like, yeah, they're noir, 100%. So however you got there, you got there.
And it's crazy. I'm not a fan for consumption of horror or noir. I hate horror generally. I like suspense drama to an extent, but I mean, I get the storytelling angle, but I get why people like it. I can wrap my brain around it from that standpoint, and I like playing in that playground myself. But I don't like to consume, like, I'm a hardcore fantasy sci-fi nerd. If I'm watching television, reading a book, anything, it's the nerdiest shit you can get your hands on. That's what I personally like. But it was so much fun doing horror and understanding like why things. So like I said, I'll get into a genre and research it and understand why tropes exist and how they exist and why certain storytelling methodologies work, and I'll use that. And then I feel like it helps me a little bit, because I'm not burdened by expectations of what the genre already has in it, because I don't have any fucking idea.
Right. So would you say you're almost more of a nonfiction consumer than a fiction consumer?
Oh, no, I definitely love fiction, but it's just very specific genres. Like I said, sci-fi, fantasy, supernatural. That's where I pretty much stay.
I'm just refreshing Dallas. He was frozen for me for a long, long time. I'm going to see if this.
I like his mid laugh freeze. That was good.
Yeah. You were stuck in like this mid laugh thing, and I'm like, let me take you away and put you back, and maybe the video will kick in again. Because I'm like, okay, I've been looking at that face a little too long now. I'm getting a little freaky deaky. It's time to mix it up. So all right. So not noir. So what would you? So I know you're a sci-fi fan, obviously. Like you've got Ignis Quadrant was your very first. You love Interstellar Dust. So okay, let's go sci-fi. What are the sci-fi stories that just like light you up? What are the things that get you out of bed in the morning?
Oh man, I mean, we can go all over the place with this. Most recently, I very much enjoyed. I'm really loving the new Halo series, honestly, despite the criticism it's got.
Okay.
For those who are long-term Halo fans, but I fucking love that series. The main actor in there is really good. He was in American Gods, which is obviously a comic-based series that I really enjoyed as well. The Firefly, Star Wars are kind of my go-tos. If I'm going to get into the anime realm a little bit, like Cowboy Bebop, that was one of the main influences for Ignis Quadrant. Like, I fucking love
Still
that.
Holds up. So beautiful.
Oh, dude, I got to rewatch that whole series every probably 2 years. I have to play Chrono Trigger, the SNES version, every 2 years, and I got to watch Cowboy Bebop every 2 years.
Nice. Yeah, Dallas was just texting me about the movie version that they did after the series. Not the live action, but the animated movie, the one that they did in between. I still haven't seen the animated movie. I've seen all of the series, love it to pieces. I that was in those like early 00 days when like anime was still kind of hard to come by in the States. But you could go to certain specialty shops and get them all on DVD for so much money. But you had to spend, but then you could get it all. And I did. Cowboy Bebop was one of the few that I was like,
Cowboy Bebop,
yeah. I got a box
Cowboy
set.
Bebop and
Cowboy Bebop. I know Trigun was big at the time. The OG Trigun. Yeah.
That was the one I bought the versions on eBay. I couldn't find them in any local specialty shops. I had to buy those on eBay.
Yeah.
From Japan.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
How come there's not a live action Trigun yet?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, I want to say budget. I want to say budget, but they've already done so many anime that you're like, really live action?
One Piece,
and they
One Piece worked.
Right. And it's and then when they do it, it actually works. Yeah, well, depends on who you ask on the last.
I don't know about that.
But. that one's a little divisive, but everyone thinks the One Piece works. The One Piece thing is like, there are people that aren't into anime that got into the One Piece anime because of the live action show, and they were like, "What the fuck? This is amazing! How is this good?" And then they started reading the anime or the manga and started liking it even more, or watching the anime and liking it even more. So that One Piece thing, I've never read the manga. I've never seen the anime. I have not seen the live action TV show yet. So One Piece, I'm a total idiot about One Piece. I've seen all the imagery. I know. Well, it's such a commitment. There's so much. It's such a problem.
No, you can the first series is you can binge watch that. It's like 8 hours or something total. I'm not.
The live action. I mean the manga and the anime. Yeah.
Oh yeah, don't read the mangas. That's like there's like 7 years of story there.
I know.
Right.
I know. And that's the thing. The only one I ever got into, and I did finish it and I love it. It's one of my top animes. Is Inuyasha, which is I did. That was the one that was like 130 episodes. And then another 25 episodes that finally finished it that they made years later because they ran out of manga. They had to wait for the manga to finish. And they were like, fine, fuck it. We're canceling the show and just letting the manga finish. Then we'll come back and finish it. And I've read all the manga and I've read all the anime. But I do love it. But that took me so fucking long. I never carve enough time. I don't know the people who can watch dozens of episodes of anime in like a week or two, like the binge watching. Like I can't binge watch.
So I do for Inuyasha. It's a 15-year-old.
Yeah, right.
15-year-old that had nothing else to do and no job, and no responsibilities.
Yeah.
Right. But not anymore. And that is the problem. Brian, most of my favorite TV shows are anime cartoon shows. Been reading more manga starting last year. I have been, I've been reading. So there's some manga that is, if you're a Kindle, it used to be Mixology Unlimited. Now it's Kindle Unlimited because they just sort of like smashed everything together. I think you can still be one or the other, but now I moved to Kindle Unlimited. There seems to be more there. But a lot of manga series, you can get the whole series free on Kindle Unlimited right now. So I've been doing Attack on Titan, which I am only 6 volumes from the end now. I think I'm on volume like 27 or 28, and it's 34 long, something like that.
I've been all over the place with that one. I started and got halfway through and then had to start again because I forgot the fuck was going on.
Attack on Titan.
And I started the series.
Yes. It's really good. It is really good, but it is one of those series, we've talked about just in the Mixology Noir stories, how there's like an ending that you don't see coming. Attack on Titan is almost like 3 completely different. Like you get to like 1/3 of the way in, and then it's just like, nope, that's not what the story is. It's something completely different. And then you get 2/3 of the way in, and they're like, nope, it's not that either. It's something completely different. And you're like, motherfucker. And they flip it so hard that I understand that some people like walk away from it because they're just like, fuck this. This is not the show I've been watching.
When is this over?
Right, exactly. I've appreciated it. I mean, I did have to sit with it. Like, I'd get to the moment where it suddenly becomes something else. And I'm like, what is this volume? What am I suddenly reading? And then I get to the second volume of that version of it. And I'm like, this is kind of clever. And I've never seen anyone quite pull this off before. I think I'm in. So I appreciate it, but I also understand why people bail and get upset with it, because it doesn't play by the rules at all.
I'll finish it eventually. We'll get there.
And yes, I've heard of it, unfortunately. Good night, everyone. Good night, Brian, if you're still there.
All right. Here's what I want to know. My last thing, this has to be close to the end because I'm on ice and I can't make any more cocktails.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the first studio that steps up and makes Berserk as a live action?
Oh, my God.
Well, okay. Number one.
Wow.
We need a fucking
A24.
Oh no.
You don't need an ending to start making series. You can start making Berserk live action now, and 10 years from now, when the live action catches up, you can make an ending.
Yeah.
So I would say, I don't know how they feel because they made Battle Angel Alita. I'm gonna say James Cameron's studio.
Aren't they making the second one?
They want to. It's one of those things where number one did not do well enough, but Cameron and Rodriguez both really believe in it and really want to keep going
Cameron
with it.
can just pay for it, can he?
Kind of. I think that's why they're. Yes, which is why I think there is a second one in, like, they're planning it and they're trying to get traction on it. I think Cameron, though, because like with the first one, like with the Avatars, they don't want to be on the hook for all of it. They need partners in it to take some of the financial burden. So that's where it gets a little muddy. But they're trying. They want to do number 2 of Battle Angel, which I thought it was fantastic.
It was fun.
The live action version. Yeah. I saw it in the theater. I put my money where my mouth is. I'm like, I want more of this. Let's do this. I bought the Blu-ray and the digital. I tried everything. I was like, everything I can buy, I'll buy one copy of at least, because God damn it, I want more of this. I want to see it succeed. But he could do Berserk. If not him, yeah. Berserk could it be a TV show? You can't pull the punches of Berserk.
If you're gonna do Berserk, you gotta fucking keep it raw. And I don't know. God, what studio would even do that? Maybe
Amazon
Prime. That's a tall
order. Maybe. That is a very tall order.
The only thing I will say, I do think it could be. I don't know if like someone like HBO. It was HBO that did Game of Thrones, right?
Oh, HBO could do it.
Yeah. I do think everyone's been looking for the next Game of Thrones since fucking Game of Thrones. Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power was not it. I think it's doing well for Amazon, but it's not the runaway cultural sensation the Game of Thrones was. But that's part of the problem, is like, you can't just make the same basic kind of thing and have it again be a cultural sensation. It was a sensation because we'd never seen it before, but we have not seen anything quite like Berserk either. So it's high fantasy.
And these studios got to catch on that their audience, the people with the money to spend on these things, are us, and the prevalence of manga in the the younger generation too. Like, bridge that gap and make that fucking show and make a bunch of money.
100%. So if HBO can ever get over itself and spend money like that again, which I know everyone's been clawing back their expenditures because nothing's been a hit the way it used to be. If they can get past that, I think Berserk, it's got the sweet spot of epic high fantasy, but then in a way that is not just a Game of Thrones pretender. Like, it's the whole aesthetic is so vastly different. It doing a horror high epic fantasy that is ultra violent is just like, that would be amazing. Kids weren't watching fucking Game of Thrones.
That's a whole decade of development, though. That is
the
a
sexual ambiguity, the horror, all that.
Yes. So much would be so incredible, and take it to the next level. Like you said, with the sexual ambiguity, they can get away from the whole, like, all we show is female nudity, and cut nothing, and make it all this wonderfully mishmash pot of genres. And visually, it would be such a spectacle. It would probably cost a lot, but I'm telling you right now, if they could get over themselves and hire a bunch of practical effect people, it would not be as expensive as they think it is. And I think a blend of practical and CGI is where that sweet spot is for most of these things still to this day. And if they can do that, oh God, it could be glorious. But
I don't know how it's taken this long for me to have a conversation about bringing Berserk to live action. I feel like that is just the fucking obvious fruit on the tree. Like, somebody grab that.
It is. It's a huge fruit, though.
The only thing is, of course, like rights, for the Japanese rights. Yeah. So it's like, whoever holds that is his estate. Have people tried? And then what the estate wants is like, holy shit, no, like we can't do that. So there's always the behind the scenes stuff that we're not privy to, and maybe. Yeah, there's always that thing where it's like the Tolkien estate for the longest time were the hardest people to crack to get those rights to make the movies. And I sent Dallas a link to this podcast. Dallas, I don't know if you ever listened to the 3-part Lord of the Rings one of the What Went Wrong
I did,
podcast. You did. Mm-hmm. So there's this podcast called What Went Wrong, and it just chronicles like how hard movies and TV, they just did the Lost a 2-parter for the entire Lost TV show. And it's all about, they chronicle like everything people went through to get it made and how miraculous it is for any of this shit to ever get made because of the stories behind the scenes. And it's eye-opening. Like Lord of the Rings, even the Peter Jackson, it was this close to never, ever, ever happening. It was so by the skin of its teeth. It's an absolute miracle that those things actually exist to this day. And
they busted open the floodgates of the genre of like high movie making, high budget, long runtime,
and filming back to back, and and like so much of it, like suddenly, but it had never been done before, really. And so everything about, and even when it was being done, the studio told him that he could only make one movie at 2.5 hours long, and that's how it started. It was not greenlit to be a 3-part, 2+ hour trilogy of films shooting back to back. Like it was a kind of like they had to say, okay, get started, and then almost like plead their case as they went to keep going. It's a fascinating story when you hear what it is. And then of course, once it all worked, that became the new model with like the Matrix 2 and 3 shooting back to back, and like everything being able to shoot back to back for a long time, even to this day, really. You can now have part 1 and part 2 whenever you fucking want if you're a big enough moneymaker.
Funny how math works, right? If they know they're going to make the things, why not keep all the shit in place and not have to pay to put it all up again?
Just FYI here, guys, according to some of the boards here, HBO has been attempting to translate a Berserk live action series with Del Toro. Yeah. Apparently,
okay, I can see that.
Maybe, possibly. So,
I mean, as like an executive producer or showrunner kind of a thing, like he could get the visuals right.
Yeah, nobody's doing world building like he does.
Please, good God, someone else write the script. But otherwise, yes, let him direct, let him monster build and world build to his heart's content. Please, God, someone else write the script. Yeah. Otherwise, I think he's brilliant as a director and as a visualist and as a special effects maestro. Yeah. All right.
We'll see.
All right, everybody. Yeah. On that note, let's all hope for a live action Berserk. Let's also, frankly, hope that they will actually finish the manga someday in our lifetime and that the story comes to a close. Oh. I love all the drinks. Welcome, Travis. I love all the drinks around Evan. You're just in time for us to quit.
Okay, these are ingredients, Travis. Ingredients that are now in my belly. They were drinks.
Yes, yeah, but some of it's like grapefruit juice and cherries, non-alcoholic. Only some of it has alcohol.
That's right.
Yeah, most.
And drink them. All right, Travis, you first, man. Palomas and Manhattans. I want you mixing them tonight. And then, of course,
Travis would be happy to know his name came up twice in this.
You did, yeah, Travis. Demon
sure,
Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight came up again. I compared one of Evan's stories in Mixology Noir Volume 2 to Demon Knight, so I know you'll be interested in that. So,
and one of the artists I got from Travis.
Oh yeah.
Oh, very cool. That's right. You mentioned that, son of a bitch. So yeah, you came up multiple times, Travis, but welcome. And good night.
Good night.
It's the highest compliment. Thank you so much, Evan. Good luck on the final two days and change that you have left on this Kickstarter. And everyone who is still with us, Mixology Noir, Volume 1 and 2. Volume 2 is the new one. Paloma and Manhattan on Kickstarter right now until for 2 days and change left. They still need the last 25% of their funding. So if you have not pledged, go and pledge what you can. Don't break your bank, but go pledge what you can. Everything
bank.
helps that Kickstarter algorithm.
Break your bank.
Add it to it and add to the backer count. But these are the final 48-ish to 72 hours where everything starts to explode all over again, like the first couple days. So here's hoping we can get there. 25%. It's nail biting, but it's going to happen. It always happens. And this is too good of a series.
Explode all over. Unlike Blake and his previous lovers. Throwback. That was a throwback.
That was a throwback. Was a throwback.
That's right.
But all right, guys. Good night for now. This was technically the Wine and Comics pairing show, but tonight it was the Mixed Cocktails and Comics pairing show. Paloma Manhattan. See you later, everyone. Ciao for now. Catch you later. We're back in 2 days with another with Lori Calcaterra and Path of the Pale Riders. See you then.
Pale Riders.